I am Paul Nimbali. I represent Permarescue, which promotes permaculture as sustainable catastrophe management. The threats that this planet is showing clear distress to, and nobody's listening, nobody's taking action as an emergency, or at least not the appropriate action. So hence the reason to start promoting permaculture as catastrophe management, because it is the ideal catastrophe management. Spent nearly 20 years in permaculture now, and in that 20 years there's hung out with a lot of hippie communities and alternative communities, and I can tell you from experience that not many of them are into catastrophe. So where Permarescue is aiming at is outreaching and reaching out to the first responders of the world, those people who are prepared to risk their own lives to save people they don't even know. So firefighters, which is my background, military personnel, retiring police, those sort of people is what Permarescue is targeting. The sort of people that when the shit does hit the fan, that people are going to turn to and ask for help, then I can, in a 2-week training program, give them the tools they need to get 600 people through and thriving. The number 600 I use is what Bill Mollison terms in the Designer's Manual as the upper limit for individuality. So up to 600 people, everybody in the community knows every other person by their first name. Also the ideal limit if you value individual education. So after 600, the model simply duplicates itself. When I was studying the last chapter, I was quite taken at the 4 pages dedicated to the bioregional organisation. There's a lot of information in this Designer's Manual, and not many topics have 4 pages dedicated to it, so that brought my attention to it firstly. Then when I drew it out into a mind map, that's when it hit me how important this 4 pages actually are. I think if you study last chapter in any depth as I have, you'll see all through that chapter that Bill Mollison's political correct writing skills aren't very crash hot. He holds no punches back in pointing the finger at bureaucracies, political structures, corporate structures on the damage that they do. It's been no surprise that we haven't received the funding and the widespread attention that permaculture does deserve. Hats off to the pioneers of permaculture for getting us this far. There's over 2.5 million people now done a 2-week permaculture design course in over 132 countries, which is astounding. They are all based on the Designer's Manual. They're all based on the individual teacher's interpretation of the Designer's Manual. And maybe if they did get to the purity of permaculture as Permarescue does, they may not have got us as far as where we are now. I think political correctness has caused permaculture pioneers to hold off on that last chapter. And they've had a lot to do in demonstrating all the other chapters and demonstrating the models actually do work. And after 30 years now, it's unquestionable that permaculture design strategies work and work everywhere. So why not the invisible structures? I know they work. These models, when I first developed the map, I deployed to Papua New Guinea to the tsunami disaster, where I first came in contact with the indigenous people of the Wontok system, which is the same fractal pattern model of this bioregional map. And their culture has been intact and operating and functioning for over 9,000 years. Now, if that's long enough for you, I don't know what is. The difference between the Wontok system and the bioregional map is instead of family names representing functions, we've replaced those family names with functional titles and open to extended families. This is a non-hierarchical structure. So each title you see on that map is a function. That function is run by groups of 3 people, which is known as a Trioka approach. This allows for very fast and flexible action and quick replacement of people who aren't functioning. If you have no skills or knowledge in any particular group, then you have no say. This system prevents takeover from tyrants, which has been the problem throughout history with the structures that we've inherited and what has got us in this mess that we're in today. Also, the pattern of this map represents that of the spider web. A spider web is very structurally sound, to the point where you can destroy 70% of the spider web and it will still remain functional. It can, of course, be overlaid on any existing structure. So this model should be overlaid a school, for example, a hospital, a business, a household, right to an individual. Those 9 support groups is what humans require to have any sort of quality of life on this particular planet. This planet is in trouble. You don't have to look very far on the news, or particularly on alternative news on YouTube, of what's going on right now in Ukraine. There's a city in Ukraine right now of 1 million people that's under siege from their own government, who are blowing up the bridges, the railway structure. All their engineering life support systems are being destroyed, essentially starving out 1 million people. There's Ebola epidemics unfolding right now throughout Africa. There are young people so frustrated with the ability to totally wipe out our computer systems and therefore jeopardise our electrical generation and transmission systems. The world is in a very fragile place. Everybody needs to be learning how to get back to nature now. I personally would like to see perma-rescue academies in every single bioregion of the planet, acting as life ships for humanity, with the seed banks, appropriate library resources, and demonstrating these models, not only working but training from them as well, teaching those around them how to live and act in this model. So my advice is for you all to get yourselves organised and get with like-minded people. Focus on living sustainably and find appropriate areas where you're not surrounded by a whole bunch of useless humans who will be demanding that you feed them. Find the right locations, even if they are national parks. Start exploring and identifying with those locations. Start getting used to camping and building up the trust of others around you. Start recruiting the skills that map demonstrates and moving in that direction. Start preparing to reach out and bring in others into that map. Our only defence in the future is to demonstrate that we are intelligent designers, and our defence will be to apply effective aid and to help others to be the same.